Welcome to Digging Deep, an Ortiz Squared podcast with former Major League All-Star Russ Ortiz and longtime sports writer Jesus Ortiz. And today's episode, we welcome Rodrigo Lopez, former Major Leaguer, former Major League star, and the general manager of the best Mexican national team in World Baseball Classic history. Bienvenido, Rodrigo. How are you?
Hey, Jesus. Hey, Russ. I'm good. I'm back to my regular job, which is broadcasting, do the sports and the game analysis for the Diamondbacks. And here you are in beautiful St. Louis.
Well, thank you for joining us. We know you're busy. I forgot to mention you're the Spanish voice of the Arizona Diamondbacks, one of the most surprising teams to start the year. Our Esquina, we amplify Latino voices in sports, arts, and culture to English preferred audiences. And in digging deep, we like to go deeper to introduce special personalities and talk about what made them special, what got them to where they are. And I'll start with our question that we always start with. What got you where you are now? How did Rodrigo Lopez become the Spanish voice of the Diamondbacks, become a major leaguer, become a team executive for Team Mexico? You could address one of those. You don't have to address all of them.
Well, that's just I guess I won't say coincidence what happened, but I guess Ross and I, besides that, we share this passion for our sport, which is baseball, but also we also share the joy of playing golf. So during a game of golf in Phoenix, they offered me the job as a sport analysis with the Diamondbacks. I played with the team and back in 2010. So one of the executives uh, during a golf game, he asked me if I want to join the Spanish radio for the D-backs, which for me was excellent since I live in Arizona and that was my way out to retirement. So that's how we started, and I believe with that comes a lot of good things in my professional career. Known and all, a lot of people, a lot of front office guys, and also being Mexican player. I also kind of represent the baseball of Mexico. So I guess through that time, I met a lot of people. I met the president of the federation, and this how it comes the offer to be part of the Team Mexico in this 2023 as a general manager. So one things get me to the other, and I was pretty fortunate of this time, just like you mentioned, it was one of the best experience for Team Mexico in the WBC.
Hey, buddy. Good to have you here. Good to see you. Yeah, we got to go golf again. I know it's going to be hot, but hey, so with you, being one of the voices for Spanish radio for, play by play at each game, I've always looked at, the former players that do the color, commentating for games. They ought to know the game well. And the good ones know the game well. And I don't think all color commentating is, you know, is great, but I think for the most part, now you're seeing more and more former players that really know the game doing such a great job, for those teams. And so the thing I got to play with you in 2006 with Baltimore, and I will say that watching you pitch, you're really impressive. Like as far as knowing how to pitch. So my question is like, who growing up, like who was the influences for you to be able to um, get to the point where you knew how to use both sides of the plate or all areas of the strike zone and to pick apart hitters? Like who who was that person, or who were the people that you watched that allowed you to, once you got, especially get to the big leagues, to be able to, have success as a pitcher?
Yeah, it was, I think it's just many factors involved. Since I started playing professional baseball in Mexico, uh, you start to learn the way you pitch in Mexico. It's a little bit different that the way you've been taught during the minor league career. So I guess all the mix of having different coaches and I think which is very important is know yourself, know what you're capable of, and I know you probably have some uh, admiration for other pitchers, but probably doesn't fit your stuff.
Sure,
So for
sure.
me, in 2000, 2001, I was hurt and I stayed in extended sprint in Arizona, and I had a lot of time to watch uh, baseball on TV. And at the time, TBS were showing all the Atlanta Braves games. So for me, I think that was one good thing that happened in my life, because I had a chance to see John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, but especially Greg Maddux,
Right.
which I think I got some similarities. I'm not saying I don't have his stuff, of course, but just the way he pitched, the way he handles himself, his body language on the mound, I think that helped me a lot to gain some confidence and just executing pitches. With the time, I have uh, guys like Rick Sutcliffe as my pitching coach, guys in Mexico like Vicente Romo, which was a legend in Mexico, and some of the guys in winter ball that helped me out to figure out what kind of pitcher I was. And knowing what stuff I have, I think for me, my best my strength was using both part of the plates and throw any pitch at any count. So I think that's any pitch at
I,
any count, whenever. So that can make me a lot, because I have to, in order to use my stuff, I have to analyze a little bit more the batter. So I think with all that knowledge, now I'm trying to uh, communicate through the microphone to the audience. But as you know, the game has changed a lot, and I've been in that transition of so many things going on down there with the technology that I had to keep myself updated and kind of figure out. But at the end, it's just execution.
right.
When when you talk about being a pitcher, being a broadcaster, how did you come to Major League Baseball? You can you tell the story of, because I talked to Alejandro Kirk and we did a story on Javier Assad last week. The difference, Assad came up through the Gonzalez Academy in Tijuana. Kirk went to the El Carmen and then signed with the Toros de Tijuana. What was your route to the major leagues, and what do you think of all the Mexicans coming into Cesar Salazar from Arizona, from Hermosillo, just became the 146th native of Mexico into major leagues. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to the major leagues and how did you get here?
Yeah. Well, my route was pretty much Fernando Valenzuela, right? So I was born in 1975. Fernando started get his good years on the 80s. So even though that I was from Mexico City, and soccer is the main sport in the city and the country, but once Fernando hit the major leagues with that such of success, also as a kid, well, we all started watching Fernando, so we always, have the desire to play baseball. So I started playing baseball down the street with my neighbors, and me and my brother were the only ones that continue in the sport organized. So it's when I started my journey in baseball. My dad play, let's say, the equivalent of minor leagues, but in soccer. Like he was a soccer player, but he always support me and my brother and whatever decision we want to take as far as sports. And when we started playing baseball, he supported us, but we never had that in mind. I mean, in playing professional, to me, it was like something unreachable. I just played during the weekends, and that was a good time to share with my family, my mom and my dad. They were pretty involved with with the uh, with the league, and that's, I guess, that brings us together. We're just family of four, and actually, and that's how I enjoyed the sport. Eventually, with the time, I was offered to do a tryout, and I did it for El Águila de Veracruz, and I was surprised that they want me to sign with them, and that's how I started my journey in Veracruz. Eventually, they signed an agreement with the San Diego Padres, and there were three guys that were picked by the Padres. A scout from Puerto Rico named Ronquito Garcia. They bring us over to Peoria, and I'm the one that survived, the only one to stay, and that's how we started. That was my process going first applying for a professional team in Mexico, and they sent me to the minor leagues, and I play in places that don't even exist in the map. And for me, that was a big adventure. Yeah, that's the way I know my country and start to my journey around baseball. But with all that, that was pretty fun. Now that I remember, I mean, still have friends that played with me back then. So there was a lot of adventures that I still remember with and enjoying. So and that helped me a lot to be the person that I know that I am today. So, but yeah, it's pretty much Fernando. Then signed with the professional team in Mexico, going through the minor leagues in Mexico, and then uh, going through the minor league system until 2000 when I made my debut with the San Diego Padres.
Well, this is pretty cool. We're all about the same generation. I'm older than both of you young guys, but Russ and I both grew up in the LA area, so Fernando Valenzuela inspired us all. I'm
Yeah,
intrigued,
for
by the
sure.
way. First of all, let me reintroduce ourselves. You're listening to Digging Deep in our T Squared podcast with former Major League All-Star former Major League All-Star Russ Ortiz, and longtime sports writer Jesus Ortiz, and our special guest, the Spanish voice of the Arizona Diamondbacks, the general manager of the Mexican team in the World Baseball Classic, and former Major League star Rodrigo Lopez. I have to ask you, what cantera was your dad from? Who did your dad play minor league soccer for?
Atlante.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive. That's
Yeah.
a big club in Mexico.
Yeah, well, that was back in the 70s, probably the 60s, when he started playing. And yeah, I think because my dad was the older of seven, so I guess one of the reasons that he didn't stay, that's because he needed to help his family to to raise. They were, I don't say poor, but definitely they need some help with the kids. And I think that helped me eventually. Year after that, eventually helped me because when I was offered to play professional sport, my mom, well, she got his doubt about, hey, what happened? You got hurt and you haven't finished your school and stuff like that. And I believe because of my dad experienced that back then, he's the one who supported me the most. Eventually, my mom, of course, support my decision. But I think because what happened to my dad, he don't want to happen the same thing to me. He say, school always going to be there. This is probably uh, your shot, and take it. Like, and I didn't finish high school at the time, and he always support me, and I believe because what happened to him in the past. So I guess everything works for everybody. So now here I am.
What's your dad's name?
Raúl Lopez.
Raul Lopez, great.
Yeah.
I'll turn this over to Russ.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, Rodrigo,
Sorry.
Jesus he loves soccer and baseball, and so you're like the perfect guest for him to say. And
I love soccer. Soccer's
yeah,
baseball is my love. Soccer's my passion. So especially I was raised in LA as a Chivas fan. My parents are from Jalisco, so I love both sports. That's so I was very intrigued. That's pretty cool.
yeah, and I know, mediocre club soccer from when my daughter played. That's about it. So, um, but you mentioned when you talk about your journey to the major leagues, you mentioned playing in minor leagues in Mexico, and because when I went to the University of Oklahoma, all the work that we did, the preparation, et cetera, when I got to the minor leagues, I was confident in, once I turned professional because of the work and the competition and stuff, at Oklahoma. And I think because I went to a university compared to some other guys that came out of high school, or they went to a school, junior college, or even a 4-year university that wasn't, as big as Oklahoma, that you could tell that they weren't as prepared. And there was a lot of, um, stress and worry and anxiety and nervousness and all that stuff. So coming from, I mean, would you say the minor leagues in Mexico was a level up from when once you signed with the Padres, going into the Padres? Did you feel like you were well prepared to go right in, and that were you very confident in yourself, or what was your mindset? Were you unsure? I mean, put aside the language, maybe the language barrier a little bit, but as far as just baseball, talking baseball, were you really, really confident because of the competition level being higher in Mexico than when you first started in the minor leagues, or was it the same? And that's the thing I'd love to find out, because you obviously made it to the big league, so the talent was there and you stayed there. Um, but I don't know anything about baseball in Mexico, because I've never got a chance to play there. So that's the thing I think about is how did you come into the minor leagues with the Padres?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that probably got that confidence, but definitely helps be able to play minor leagues in Mexico. I have small, I think about 2 or 3 games in the main league after my first year.
Hmm.
I got called up and I pitched 1 game or 2. I don't even remember. That was, I don't know, back in '94, '95, well, maybe '93. I don't know. It's been so long. But yeah, uh, when I got to America, to the United States, I feel more like excitement of being part of it, like totally different facilities. Back then, the Peoria complex was brand new, so coming from Mexico in the minor leagues, which the infrastructure was nothing compared with what I was seeing in the Peoria Sport Complex, I was
Right.
very excited with it. The time uh, and playing winter ball. I think winter ball helped me a lot as far as control my emotions on the mound, and that's why I probably see that was the difference between the guys that were just drafted and some guys that coming from high school that probably don't have that experience of pitching in front of 15,000 people, or pitching in a game where it's not for development. It's a game that for to win a championship. I
Right.
think that helped me a lot also to get to the big leagues. Definitely a different scenario. My first time in the big leagues was in the Qualcomm Stadium in front of 50,000 people, because that they pitched against the Atlanta Braves back in 2000. So that was, I guess, the team of America. And but definitely, yeah, I mean, there's different. There's so many things that you had to uh, put on the table on your develop as a Mexican player, because back then we don't have the facilities. Pretty much you're on your own once you get signed. Yeah, you practice every day, but back then we don't have people specialized like now. We got like strength conditioning guys. Now we got trainers.
Sure.
Back then there were you're on your own, and again there were towns where they didn't even were in the map. So there was of course no gyms close by, and I think that helps a lot for your to be more mature. So at the time you get to the States, when you are 18 or when you are 19, you get to the States and you see yourself against this the guys that are coming from high school or from for the college. You see, well, at least that's the way I see myself. That probably was more mature on that part, but that I have the same talent, probably not. But I think I can handle myself on the mound, and I think I I appreciate more every time, every day that I was on the mound. I don't know if the other guys feel the same way, but for me, it was more like excitement to be there and the dream to become a major league, that
Hmm.
the nervous or the anxious that probably can be produced by the scenario that we are in America.
Right.
You're listening
Yeah.
to Digging Deep, an Ortiz Squared podcast with former Major League All-Star Russ Ortiz and sports writer Jesus Ortiz and special guest Rodrigo Lopez. Sorry to interrupt, Russ. Go ahead.
No. Well, no. I mean, when we got to be teammates in 2006, one of the things that I noticed right away is your not only command of your pitches, but your control on the mound, um, and the way that you carried yourself, each day. And I mean, I saw so much confidence, um, and I think I'm trying to remember if that year, like, I don't think I don't think you had a bad year, but the wins and losses, I think didn't, tell the whole story. I'm trying to think if it was that year or the year before, but when I got there, like you definitely were, a guy that everybody felt like, hey, when you're on the mound, you know, we're going to have a chance to win. Um, something I noticed with all pitchers that, especially came up, um, playing in the Mexican league, is there's this aura of like, I'm not afraid of any of these guys. There's like a toughness that that I think that you all carry around. And and I mean, do you think that, or do you notice that with other players that you have played with or against in the major leagues that come through the Mexican leagues like you did? I mean, because that's what I see from the outside, or that's what I saw from the outside, is that the way that you all carry yourself is that you know you're not afraid of the moment. You're not afraid of, especially pitchers, you're not afraid of these hitters. And, you're willing to do whatever it takes. And I think that showed, um, your teammates, and the guys playing behind you. I think that showed up a lot. And so that's one of the things I was impressed with. Not only, I mean, the control that you have with the baseball was phenomenal, but it was just the way that you carried yourself. It reminded me of just the other players from Mexico, that you all kind of have the same aura about you, which is, I'm not I'm not afraid of pitching in the major leagues. I'm not afraid of the hitters. I'm not afraid of the moment. And I mean, did you feel that? And do you notice that as well or did you notice that as well with other players that you played with or against from Mexico?
Uh, but yeah, I didn't have the chance to play with many pitchers from Mexico. Definitely had teammates like Geronimo Gil. I had a chance to share a lot of time with Esteban Loaiza.
Mm-hmm.
Then I met a couple of the guys, but it's good that you mentioned it, Russ, because that year I just feel like inside of me, I was not say I was afraid, I was concerned, but that was my last year before become a free agent. Well, that was my 5th year, so I was afraid to what would have happened. I remember with the both of you, the both of us uh, ended up in the bullpen in the last month because I think you were coming from Arizona. Yeah, I don't have the result. I mean, I remember both of us have the good stuff. I remember throwing bullpen side to side. And I feel like we both have our pitching. Just I don't know what was the reason why the results weren't there. And yeah, like probably I trying to project that I'm pretty secure of what I was doing. But yeah, it was a lot of things come to my mind. What's going to happen next year? If I'm going to get released, probably not get not attended. So
Right.
many things happened to my mind, and that was the year that I lost 18 games. So definitely I lead the league on losses, and probably just like you mentioned, like not always is about the record, but for me it was like something that definitely don't want to lead the league on losses, regardless if I was pitching good or not. That's something that's gonna be there forever. But yeah, like I it's anything else and on different professionals. I guess everybody's different, and yeah, I know guys like probably Julio Rios right now. That the guy who seems like goes out there since he was a kid, and he projects himself with a lot of secure and on the mound with big with self-esteem. And there's some other guys that probably don't like. I don't know, but like uh, Jorge de la Rosa. Jorge de la Rosa was such, he got a great career, more than 100 wins. But I always seen it like he was, his body language didn't see the same thing that the numbers show, but he was
Right.
pretty effective. So yeah, but in my particular case, yeah, one of the things that I learned from Rick Sockley while he was my pitching coach in the rookie on in the rookie league, he mentioned much of the poker face. You say like you can feel terrible inside, but you have to stay calm and you have to project like no expression because you show like there's something to concern you interior, like your your teammates there aren't the only ones still watching you, but also the other team, and the other team will take advantage of that. So
Sure.
I remember Rick always told me, even if you feel terrible, just act like you got your best stuff that day. So I
Right.
always keep that in mind, and probably is that something that you see during that year back in 2006. But yeah, like once I step off the clubhouse and stuff like that, there was a lot of things going on my head, and I remember one thing. I don't know if you remember, Russ, when we were in probably it was one of the last games that season, and we were in the bullpen in Boston, and you asked me about
Was
Aaron Hinsky,
was
and
I
you said,
eating
"Hey,
peanuts? Was I eating
yeah."
peanuts at the time?
And you asked me about Hinsky, like, yeah, Eric, like, dude, you pitch well. I faced him a lot of times, and I know Eric Hinsky because our story, like the rookie of the year back in 2002. I was the runner-up. He was the
Yep.
rookie of the year, but I think we were pretty close. And of course, I know Hinsky, and I just told you a quick scout report, and I think that was terrible scout report, and you ended up giving up like hit or double. I don't know, but I just remember watching you from the bullpen, and like, oh, I think because I think you throw a change, I told you like keep the change away and fastball in something like that, but that was a terrible report, and I feel guilty about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a great story. We know you're busy, so we won't keep you that much longer. I wanted to ask a little bit about, because I want to touch on the Team Mexico, but before we get to that, I want to talk about your English skills. How much you worked? How much did you
I
work
forgot to
to
show
become
my hat.
bilingual? How long did you work to become bilingual? What did you do? How long did it take you to become comfortable speaking English? You know, I was born in the U.S., but my parents came from Jalisco, and I didn't learn English until I was 6 years old. But I was born and went through it, and I always appreciate players who I see like my parents' journey, who come to a new country, learn a new language. Tell us how you learned English, and how long did it take you to learn English?
I'm still learning. And I think that's something that we talked before, and even Ross. At one point in time, I told him that I wasn't comfortable doing shows or podcasts in English, because I still feel like I need to learn a lot. The process has been since day one that I came to the States. And there's something that I like. I like to be the fact that I can speak both language, that I can communicate. Probably I'm not like outspoken or extroverted. I'm very reserved, but definitely I like the fact that I can communicate with others in other language. And I think English is a universal language that you can use all over the world. So but the process is still I'm still in the process, and just with the time, I guess the basis, the foundation is being baseball. Hearing the same uh, directions day by day, and then you start to learn those easy words that you use on the field because of the instructions of your coaches. With the time, you're trying to communicate outside baseball, and that's how I learn. But uh, a guy that helped me a lot, that was Bruce Chen. That probably you remember, Russ. He was with us
Yeah.
back in '06. He's from Panama, but he speaks really well English, and he went to Georgia Tech, and he speaks very well. So he understands how to uh, how can how to teach me translate some phrases in Spanish than English, because sometimes what we do, we translate literally, and that doesn't mean anything, either or, like either going to Spanish or going to English. So he teach me a lot, and definitely give me more confidence on some words that I was learning through those years that I played with Bruce. And yeah, always. And now that when my kids growing up in the States, growing up in Chandler, Arizona, well, when they were kids, going to the preschool, then elementary, I guess I learned a lot about how they learn how to speak and how to read English, and kind of give me more support, more foundation of the ideas that I have and so on words, and be here, year round. That gave me a lot. And I work in an environment where, you know, 80% of the people speaks English, and my goal is at one point that I can have fluidly speaking English. But the process is still watching movies, trying to. Now that I was on the classic, I had to send emails in English, so also that helped me a lot. And just the connection of having good people around, Steve Perdue and Bob Brownlee, Tom Candiotti, all those guys that I speak with them on regular basis, that kind of helped me a lot. But I think, yeah, like you never stop learning, and I'm still working on my English. But yeah, but thanks for, I guess, for the compliment to say that I'm bilingual.
Well, your English is great. You speak it very well, and you also put together the greatest, the most accomplished team in World Baseball Classic. I was there in Miami. You guys were so close to beating Japan. I thought you guys were going to beat Japan, And what I really loved and what endeared me to your team, and you and I talked a little bit before the roster came out, as a Mexicano who was born in the U.S., who always cheered for El Tri in the World Cup, who has his Russ and I have that same Mexico hat I wear all the time. As a Mexican American, thank you for what you guys represented. Mexicans always say levantar la bandera, lift the flag high. But to me, you guys did more than that. You guys lifted the Mexican flag, but you also showed the beauty and the fact that, as they say, el mexicano nace donde quiera. The Mexican is born wherever he wants. And some speak Spanish, some don't. Russ doesn't speak Spanish. I do, and we always talk about that. You don't have to speak Spanish to be Latino. You don't have to speak Spanish to be Mexican. And I think your team really showed that to the world. And for that, I thank you. Uh, Tell me about your experiences with the team, and where do you think the future of Mexican baseball is?
Yeah, no, putting the team together definitely. At first, you gotta go with the talent, but also see who's willing to play with passion, who's willing to represent with pride his roots. Just like you say, it's it doesn't matter where you were born, because I don't think anybody picks where to born. There are guys that born outside of Mexico. They don't even speak Spanish, but they got it in their heart. They got in the passion. They got inspired to being a Mexican, and that that says a lot. Like Alec Thomas. Alec Thomas, that was a guy who was in contact with me through the process. Every week he texts me, "Hey, how we doing? When we gonna present the roster? All the stuff like that." Juan Walker also put a good effort to be with the team. That means a lot. There were guys that probably could be on the team, but yeah, I didn't see the passion of it. I feel like at first they say yes for just to say yes, and then at the end, once the process to start, they just didn't got the passion, or they don't believe probably in the project. So there were guys; those guys definitely weren't in the team. One thing that I can assure you that the guys that were in the roster, that's because they want to participate. They want to be part of the team, and they want to definitely uh, play for his roots, like Rowdy Teles, all those guys, and that at the end uh, make the team become a family. I know this is a cliche that probably we heard a lot, but honestly, what Benji Gill did in the clubhouse and with the players, that was a family. And have those guys that are bilingual and they got that personality of being a good teammate. I'm talking about Luis Urias. This guy, where I believe he was pretty key on that chemistry in the clubhouse is Manny Barrera. Like he grew up in Tucson, but most of his career has made in Mexico. Um, he's bilingual. He knows our culture in Mexico. He knows our culture here in the States, and I think that was very valuable because the way he jokes with his teammates and everything, that just make the clubhouse relax. And with the time, I get that reflects on the field, that chemistry, that friendship, that bonding that they create. I think that's the result. That everybody definitely was playing to win, but when you have your teammates that they have your back and you got get along with them, that's create a good environment, and I think that's what happened in this WBC.
Well, thank you very much. I know you have to get to work. Um, you're listening to Digging Deep, an Ortiz Squared podcast with former Major League All Star Russ Ortiz, sports writer Jesus Ortiz, and two-time 15-game winner. And I think you started a couple opening days. No, Rodrigo, how many opening days did you start for the Orioles?
Three,
Three
three.
opening days. So one of the best pitchers of his
It's
generation.
awesome.
Uh, Thank you very much. Russ, do you want to say anything before we go?
No, Joel, just thanks for coming on. I mean, yeah, you and I talked before, and like you mentioned, just not sure about doing everything in English, but I mean, uh, when you and I were teammates, all you did is speak English because I didn't speak Spanish. So, but
No, but that's different.
just
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
I mean,
just
but
that
doing
was
this, I mean, your
different.
English is your English is tremendous. So, um, so yeah, so it's very very good. But it's always great to see you. Thanks for coming on and sharing about your story and what you're doing now and stuff. And I wish I knew Spanish because then I'd be able to I'd want to listen to you guys do the play by play. But I don't know, maybe I can. Then I'll start to learn more, just like you start to learn English. But I hope Bruce didn't make you repeat his bad jokes in English when he was helping you with English. So, but
He still does. He still does.
I
I'm
know.
seeing once in a while we going together to the basketball games during the Phoenix Sun season, and still got the same jokes. But I
Oh
always
my
laugh.
gosh,
It's funny.
I
It's
know.
funny.
I just talked to somebody like 2 weeks ago that just met him, and he still, yeah, he every time he's
It's
introduced to new people, he tells me the same jokes that I had to hear,
the
and every
muffler
new
joke. The
person.
muffler joke.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
So, oh man, but no,
well,
thank you very much. Like
You
this
have
was
to have
great.
it on your show, and then he can tell you
yeah.
his jokes.
Gosh, yeah,
We'll have to do it.
he's a character.
I covered Bruce, I think, at least with one team. I don't know if it was with the Astros or with the Mets, but I covered Bruce Chen. Great guy. Thank you very much. And it's great to kick off this season of Digging Deep and our T Squared podcast with Rodrigo Lopez. Muchas gracias, Rodrigo. And we'll see you when you come down to Houston. And what we're starting at our esquina this year is we're doing a Spanish call of the week from the Voces de Baseball. Because with our esquina, our esquina, our corner, so we mix the Spanish, do a little Spanglish. So send us your calls. We'd love to run them on our social channels so people hear your talent, your passion for baseball. Muchas gracias. Thank you for listening to Digging Deep.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jesus. Ross,
Thanks,
see
buddy.
you.
Yeah.
I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
It is.